All right, what we're doing here today is we're putting the Subaru fuel pump. This is a 2006-2007 Subaru Impreza, and I think later on models it's a EJ253 with a variable valve timing. In this case, this pump only has one line that feeds the fuel. This is the regulator here, so I can't make this any shorter. On my other gas tank video I did, it was a Super Beetle. It had a feed and a return line, so this is here is just pipe, so I was able to shorten this assembly a little bit. In this case, I cannot do that. So what happens is that the tank is just a little shallow. Can't really see it. It's a little shallow for this. So what we're gonna do, just like I did with my Beetle tank, which I run the same engine, is I built making a little box. This will be 6 inches wide, 9 inches long, 2.5 inch little lips. So what we're gonna do is just gonna cut a hole here, put the whole rectangle in, and then I can adjust it to where I need it for the height wise, and I can tack it into place, and that's it. Along with that, I got a little 2x2 plate that I'm gonna be cutting and welding this shut. Now this tank has been sitting empty for 5-6 years at least. So there's no fuel, no smell, no nothing in it whatsoever. I will be having this tank lined inside and coated on the outside as well, just like I did on my other tanks. And yeah, I'll be back once I do some cutting. Okay, so I cut the piece out of the bottom, welded in that little cap. That's what cut that out. That's it. Then I made my box, I cut out the hole for the fuel pump, and then marked out the holes. Now, if you're doing it, I always forget, but mark out your gasket where the hole's gonna be, and then cut it a 1/4 inch bigger all the way around. That's something I always end up having to cut twice, but you mark it out, and then once you're done, take it out and cut it a 1/4 inch bigger all the way around. That way the fuel pump will fit in nicely. So now I'm just gonna drill these in, put some studs through, weld it in place, and then I'm gonna cut into the tank and see what happens. All right, so after a few test fits, I realized that this kind of slopes down for reasons. It has to get tucked into the bus. So I lowered this part here because that's almost as high as it can before it tucks in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this tank out to Rusty for one final test fit, and we'll see how it looks. But you can see, I'm trying to shine it in there. It sits right there, about 1/8 of an inch off the bottom, and also has enough room for the float tube to go down and fit perfectly. And it just misses it. If you look down, grab the light, right where it's gonna go, it just misses it perfectly. So we'll take this outside, do one last test fit. And I also realized my original plan of using studs like I did in the Beetle is not gonna work. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna put nuts in here, and then once the tank is in place, through the access hole I'm gonna make, I'm gonna be able to slide the pump in and then bolt it down once the tank is inside the bus. So let's take this thing out to Rusty and see how she fits. This is Rusty, the 73 bus. It's more of a storage unit right now. A new windshield for the wife's Beetle. It's kind of peeking out the back there. So let's get this thing in here for a test fit. All right, so she slid in, and you'll see here we got lots of room here for the fuel pump and the lines and the electrical and everything. The strap will just come down right there beside it, and that's it. She's in place. Just gotta cut an access hole there through the top in pickle, so obviously not in Rusty, but that way we can get fuel pump in, and that's it. So she's good to go. Time to weld her up. All right, so I removed the box I made just so I can come in here and make, now that I know everything fits, I can weld a couple baffles in to the floor, hopefully trying to stop a little bit of the sloshing around. And while I was at it, I cut a hole on this side of the tank as well. The reason is so I get as much of this old crap out of the tank as I can. And with that factory divider wall there, I can't really get into it. So That's what it used to look like. That's what it looks like now. I know she's still rusty, but that's all surface stuff, but it's all cleaned up with a wire wheel and the brush. So now I can weld in a couple of baffles in there and get this thing all welded up. All right, so I got everything welded up. I got a couple of baffles, one going this way, one going this way, right beside the tank, or the pickup, sorry. I also have one here. Well, now I cut this out to clean it. Now she's all nice and clean. Baffles are installed, 1, 2, 3. The pump, I plugged the hole that was for the vent tubes. I'm just gonna use the factory bus venting on the tank. So just slide her in. That's it. Once it's in there, boom, bolt it down. That's it. Fuel sending unit. Can't really see very well, but now I'm just gonna grab the wire wheel, give it a quick cleaning, and then she's off to the gas tank place to have it lined and coated on the outside. We'll see what it looks like when I get it back. The gas tank back from the gas tank exchange. They blasted the tank, they painted it on the outside, and on the inside they lined it. You can see how great it looks, nice and clean. No worries about any of that rust that was in there before or flakiness. Don't have to worry about it leaking, nothing. Looks amazing in there. You see my strainer there for the fuel filter, laid nice and flat. So also what I did is I got a AN adapter for the fuel spigot that's there. So instead of putting the hose or messing around with that, I just grabbed that, put an AN line on it, whoop, over to a fuel filter, which will be mounted on the firewall. And from the fuel filter, I'll put one of these adapters onto the fuel rail, and then she'll be good to go. Now on this setup, there is no return line on this model of EJ253. So there's no need to run a second line. Just one line, you're done. All the regulated pressure gets fixed right here, right inside the fuel pump, which I took out of the donor car. So the engine's going to be getting the gas that it expects. No surprises, it's done. Good to go. You'll still think it's in a Subaru. Hope you enjoy. See you next time.